It's Gypsy, and today I have Roo with me, and we're going to talk about which card?
Hanged Man.
The Hanged Man, that's right. And do you happen to know what number that is? That's a trick question, because I don't think I've ever told you that. It's card number 12. Here it is. This is the Pamela Coleman Smith commemorative deck that I use now, because I love it. There's the Hanged Man. This card traditionally represents acceptance, that kind of, feeling you get when you're rolling with it.
Yeah.
What did I say earlier? Chillaxing. Chillax. It's like the chillax card of the tarot. In a nutshell. Of course, there's more to it than that, but I'm not going to go into all of that. I'm comparing artwork. So, we have this one as our basic. Whenever I was looking at making the scorecard for this, of course, I always look at Rachel Pollack's book, 78 Degrees of Wisdom, as my benchmark, my starting point, my point of reference. So in that, she discusses a few things, which included the fact that the Hanged Man is hanging here on a T-shaped tree. It is wooden. It's got vines hanging on it. He is hanging by a rope, and it appears to be his right leg crossed by his left leg, at least in the picture I'm looking at here.
Yeah.
No, it's actually opposite of what I said. So we see him hanging here from his right leg with the left leg bent, and he's got rope that's actually holding him onto the tree there. What color is his pants, Roo?
Red.
What color is his shirt, Roo?
Blue.
Yep. And then we also see something else here. What's going on with his arms?
It's behind his back.
Right. And then what about his head? What's special about his head?
It's like it's a girl because it's always long.
Right, but what else? Yeah, the hair's hanging down, but what else is going on with the head that you see?
There's like sun.
The sun, yeah, there's rays like an aura, or like a halo kind of thing around their head. So, representing the calm the calm that comes with a certain level of enlightenment. So there's the Hanged Man as per the Arthur Waite Smith deck. There were 9 possible points that could be earned on my scorecard. The Hanged Man, T-shaped tree, rope tethering foot, crossed legs making the number 4. I gave a bonus point if the right leg was behind the left, like exactly like in this card, because I've seen variations. Arms behind back, crown of light, vines, and I gave a bonus if the clothes were the same color, if they matched the colors of the clothes. So overall possible score 9. One deck scored 9 points. Who do you think it was? Whose deck could you possibly imagine got all 9 points for being almost exactly like the Rider-Waite-Smith deck? Could it possibly be Illuminati Tarot? Because it always is. I swear I do not make these scorecards as I'm looking at the Illuminati Tarot. I really don't. It's not like that. So, basically a pimped out, awesome version of the Illuminati Tarot, which is hard to see in here because the light is not the greatest. But bam, that is so close. You even have the longish hair, except the Illuminati Tarot's is longer.
I do know.
So she's hung on the hair because it makes her think of girls, and so it could be like a girl or a boy.
Well, what I do notice is on this one, it's not, his arms are not folded behind his back.
Yeah, they are. Look, yeah, they are.
No.
Yeah, that's a cape. See, there's his forearms.
Okay, never mind.
That's okay. It is a lot to look at. She was thinking his arms were above his head, but that's actually a cape. So it's hanging. His arms actually are right here, folded behind his back. That's his forearms there. So anyway, Illuminati Tarot. But, as I usually like to do, I want to start with the old cards. So you see the standard, you saw the big winner, not like it was a big surprise. But I want to go back to the Visconti Tarot. This deck came out around what year?
1450.
1450. And we see here, we got the Hangman. Now, his legs are going a different way. So, this is really correct. And actually, if you turn it upside down, it really is number 4.
What I do notice on the old cards, the right leg bent on most of the old cards.
Yes.
But on pretty much all the new cards, the left leg is bent.
Well, let's see here. Yeah, it looks like, well, true to form, the Minchiotti deck was different. So we do have another old deck, but if you see here, the Visconti has it crossed differently than the Rider-Waite-Smith, but the Minchiotti, which came out around the same time, has the same leg bend. And you see here another thing that's different is, in the Visconti, we see that his arms are behind his back.
Yeah.
What about in this one?
No.
No.
It's kind of like what I saw on the other card.
Yes.
Except for that was his cape.
Right, but this is
He's
what
holding-
this, and you know what? It's almost like maybe they're kind of representing both.
Yeah.
By having the cape up like that, there's still a sense of freedom because it's flowing and it's free hanging. So there we have it. Looks like he's holding little bags of money.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
And it doesn't really seem like, and he doesn't have the red pants. He has a red shirt but not red pants.
Right. Oh, and you know another thing that's different is this is actually hanging in a frame. So is this one. You see how the Hangman is in a frame? He's in a wooden frame. Well,
Yeah.
if I can hold it straight.
That's how all the
Wooden frame.
are. That's how
But
all
then
the old ones
that's how all the old ones are. Here's the Marseille Tarot. And you see here his legs are bent the same way as the Visconti, which is opposite the Rider-Waite-Smith. I think it's interesting that he's missing the end of his like sock or his shoe. You see that?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that interesting? And then he's also hanging from a rope, so that was pretty standard. They all were hanging from a wooden rack with a rope. In the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is when he's hanging from a T-shaped structure.
Huh. You're right. Another thing that I noticed with this card
Mhm.
is he still has the red pants, the blue shirt, but
Oh,
the
that's
shirt
right.
is red and blue.
That's right. They mixed it up a little bit. They
Yeah.
made him look kind of more jestery, really. You know, in this one, the original one, he just looks like a man. He's just a man hanging. But by the time the Marseille came out 300 years later, we see more of a jester, like a court jester. Same with Minchiotti. It's pretty, you know, it's just a dude. Nothing fancy.
Yeah.
And then in this one, we've gone back to just being a dude. You know, he's not wearing anything really fancy. Unless you're talking about the Illuminati Tarot, where everybody wears fancy clothes. So, on to the rest of the modern day cards. You saw the differences there between those. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention. When I was reading Rachel Pollack's book, she mentions, and she has a little example in there. It's really hard to show on video, but the Golden Dawn Tarot. Now, I don't have that one, so I can't show you an example. But in the Hangman card in that particular deck, he's hanging above water. It has a whole list of meanings that the water, you know, kind of represents for the hanged man and the state of the hanged man and the emotional state of the hanged man. So I did notice in the Visconti Tarot, it looks like a bunch of mountains, but if you look really closely, those hills there are colored blue. Now, this is a reproduction deck, and so I know that it has been touched. I mean, my God, it's gilded, so we know it's been altered a little bit. So I don't know that it was originally colored like that, or if the you know, if the artist that kind of redid this deck made the decision to give it that Golden Dawn feel after the fact. I'm really not sure, and I didn't do research. I'm just letting you know. I noticed it in this card, but you'll see other cards as we go through these modern decks that have the water. So watch for that, because you'll see some that are like that.
I noticed a lot of cards that actually have water.
Yeah, there's a whole group of them, and I think I may have put them kind of close together. I'm not sure. She has her list of favorite cards, so we're going to highlight those as we go through. Y'all always know which one are mine because I talk so much. it turns out there was a 4-way tie for second place. The highest score was 9. That was the Illuminati Tarot. The next one, using those criteria that I gave, was a score of 5. And there were actually 4 different decks that got that score. I like watching trends and looking for patterns. And I always find it so interesting when there's a huge drop between, the Rider-Waite-Smithness of, certain groups of decks. I always expect kind of a gradual, decline. But it always, I don't know, it fascinates me whenever I see a huge drop. And that's a 4-point difference between first and second place. So that's crazy. The 4-way tie was between the Bohemian Gothic Tarot, the Paulina Tarot, the Steampunk Tarot, and Revelations Tarot, which is the new one that I added. One of the new ones. So first of all, let's look at the Bohemian Gothic because it's we're losing sunlight out here, and it's going to be hard to see this pretty soon. So there's the Hangman. What's the first thing you notice?
It's the water.
He's hanging over water. Absolutely. He's also hanging by the right legs, and his arms are behind his back. I don't remember what... Oh, and he is called the Hanged Man. You'll notice in a couple, as we go through some of these decks, they change the names of them. I believe Ciro Marchetti's decks are the only ones that have the Hanging Man, which is different. And then there's other cards like Steampunk Gods and Machine that just completely changed the name. So we'll get to those. But I did give a point for having the title the Hanged Man. So there you have the Bohemian Gothic Tarot, basically. Okay, then we have the Paulina Tarot. What do you think of the Paulina one?
I think it's like wild because you can find a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, those cards have a lot going on in them.
Like
So I can't even sit here and go through this entire card. It would take like 20 minutes by itself. But basically, his arms are freed. Like we saw in the Minchiati Tarot. He has his arms loose.
Yeah.
And but he does have his legs crossed correctly. He is hanging. I gave partial credit because he is hanging from a tree. I mean, it's not a T-shaped, but it's wooden, and I don't know, it seemed authentic, so I gave it a point for that. I did give credit for the crown of light on its head because it's not, even though it's not really like a sun, it is glowing, and it does have that kind of feeling to it, so I went ahead and gave credit. So there's the Paulina Tarot. Steampunk Tarot. I like this one. Is this one of the ones you like?
No.
No, that's not it. It's
But
the other one.
It does have the hanging arms again.
Yes, he does have his arms hanging. But you know what's interesting about this one? His arms aren't free. He's tied.
Yeah, it's
You see that? With the vines. So he got points for having the vines, but in this case, they're not just up above, they're also down here, and they're actually holding his arms. And he got the crown of light in the background with the stained glass. The legs are crossed correctly.
Actually,
So
up above that's holding onto his leg is chains.
yes, he has chains. He does not have rope. And this is more in the fashion of the old cards. You see how he's inside of a frame rather than hanging from a T-shape?
Yeah.
So this is kind of like the older cards in that respect.
You can see the pole.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have the Revelations Tarot. So in this one, this entire tarot deck is a mirror image of itself. And so here you're actually focusing on this hangman in this particular picture. So his legs are crossed a different way than the Rider-Waite one, but he does have that crown of light. His arms are behind his back. They are still crossed in the shape of a 4, and it is called the Hangman. So it got another 5-point score. Do you like these cards?
Yeah, I like this card. I like this card because I like it. It's like you could switch it.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
It's like a reversible coat. The next two were the Deviant Moon Tarot and the Vertigo Tarot. And I believe these two were two of your favorites, weren't they?
Yes, they were indeed.
Okay, so here we have the Borderless Deviant Moon Tarot. And that is hanging from a rope. It's not a T-shape, it's actually more of a frame. If you look, there's no backboard, there's no,
there's just one
big
board.
part. It's just like a curtain rod. He's hanging from a wooden curtain rod. Yeah. Like a closet hanging rod. Okay, my little thing about this card that I really like is the timepiece hanging on the shoe there. It gives a sense of time, like a timeout. you know, slowing of time or a comfortable, you know, comfortable pace, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that's one thing that I really like about this card. What did you like about this card? Why was this one of your favorites?
Because I like it how I like how it's kind of like one of the old cards because instead of the right leg it bent, it's the left leg bent.
Oh yeah, and he has it bent a little bit differently than we normally see,
yeah,
huh?
it's like it's not really 4.
Right. So you like it because it's a little different?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have the Vertigo Tarot. And this was another one you liked.
Yeah, because I like how they use a mummy.
Oh, you like the mummy?
They don't really use mummies very much. I like the fire. Instead of water, it's fire.
Yes, it is fiery looking, and so I did give it credit for having a crown of light because it has that energy around the head. And I think that's really the important thing about that, so I went ahead and gave credit for it. Yeah, the legs are bent right. We can assume that the arms are behind the back because we don't see them in the picture here. They're bound, that's for sure, so that counts. And then, of course, it's hanging from a tree, not really a T-shaped thing like that. It's kind of in this thorn, you know, like bush, dead bush thing. Next, we have the Juareviv, which is always very whimsical. Now, this Hanged Man is a lot different. He looks, at a glance, he looks very similar to, you know, the Hanged Man look. But when you look really closely at the details, you know, he's not hanging from a T. He's actually hanging from a curve. That's different. It doesn't have that rigidness to it, the straight lines.
Yeah,
it has a curve.
And he's hanging by his tail.
And he's hanging by his tail. He's hanging by his own tail. So it has even less of that. It's not someone that's hanging and being punished. It's someone that is like in a state of meditative trance and just, you know, hanging out. So this cat's just hanging out, man. He's chilling. And then his hands are free. His legs are crossed the right way, but check it. His foot is in front. Tricksy little kitty.
Cats are always tricky.
Cats are tricky. He has a very Cheshire Cat feeling to him in this. Yeah. It's kind of like Mad Hatter meets Cheshire Cat.
To me, it's kind of like
it's
a girl because it's in a ponytail. His hair's in a ponytail.
This card's even cooler upside down than it is right side up. Check it out. That's a cool looking cat, man.
Feather instead of hair.
For the rest of the decks, I'm going to go through them in a little bit different order than what was on the scorecard. So all of these are three and below, and I think, well, when I get to it, there was one card that didn't score any points at all, and you'll know it when we get to it. So this was another one of her favorites. Now, what I noticed, okay, hold on. The way I organized the rest of these was like basically by the way they were positioned in the card. So, you know, I found that a lot of the hangmen, you know, they hung different ways, some traditionally, some not so traditionally, and some of them weren't hanging at all. And so that's kind of how I grouped them together for this part of it. So first we have the one left that had the hangman hang, and that was this one, Steampunk's The Gods and the Machine. And this was another one of Roo's favorites.
Because if you look really closely, you can see like the rope on his foot.
Yes, you can see the rope up there. He's hanging inside the tube.
I thought he was hanging, but Mom told me that Gypsy told me that it was actually rope there.
Yes.
So another reason why I like it is because there's another mummy.
There's another mummy. Yes, we have another mummy. Do. So anyway, this was the last man standing that didn't quite have a very high score, but I mean, who cares? This is an awesome card. Oh, the other thing was it's called the Suspension Tank. It's not called the Hanged Man. So it has a totally different title. This is one of those ones. And this deck typically does rename them, so that was no surprise. The next ones are kind of doing a they're hanging, but they're doing kind of a free hang, and these are both Ciro Marchetti decks. It's the Legacy of the Divine Tarot and the Gilded Tarot. We see in both of these kind of remind me of Pink, like in concert. You know how she hangs from the ribbon?
Because one, she is kind of like the gymnastics kind.
Yeah.
Thing. Then the other one's kind of like...
The other one looks like he's falling and he's caught up in some chains. That one
Yeah.
doesn't look as relaxing to me. Honestly, I get a more relaxed feeling from this one here.
Yeah.
You know, and this is the Fool, of course. If you're familiar with this deck, you've seen this. If you've watched the other videos, you've seen this guy before, and that is the Fool, and we see him in several cards, and so I like seeing him here as the Hanging Man. And you notice he is called the Hanging Man, not the Hanged Man, in both of these decks, down here also. And it's just Ciro. Ciro's the only one that I have that calls him the Hanging Man, so I think that's kind of cool. Something to note. But I absolutely love this. This is actually one of my favorites. Legacy of the Divine Tarot. I like to call him the Hanging Man. Oh, one thing I want to point out about this card. We'll look at this for one thing. It's over the water. I didn't know if you noticed that. But he is hanging over water here. See the reflection?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he is hanging over water. But it's also got this mirror. And it's got a timepiece. The hourglass is reminiscent of the Deviant Moon, where we saw the watch hanging from the boot. And so I really like having that timepiece in there. But anyway, definitely one of my favorite Hanged Man cards. And then the last one that was kind of a free-form hanger, but in a different way, is the Shadowscapes Tarot. As always, it's absolutely beautiful. We have a picture of the Ankh up here. According to Arthur Waite, that was also part of the symbolism that was used when choosing to put it on a tree, on a T-shape, because it correlated to the Ankh. We see that here up in the tree. So that's a little bit something there to note. Here you see he's chilling out. It looks like he's kissing the fairy, but she's kind of got her hand up to his mouth. It's hard to tell in this picture unless you really look at it close. But it's like she's bringing him peace. She's whispering to him, I guess. You know, it's a very peaceful card. I love this Hanging Man too. Now I'm calling it the Hanging Man. I love this Hanged Man card too. Very pretty card.
What I like it about it is because I like it how it's like trees holding it, like the vine.
Yeah, it's very natural.
Yeah.
It's just he's just hanging by his own legs, and he's hanging from the tree, and he's outside in the sunshine, chillaxing. All right, the next two we had were similar, and so I grouped them together because I wanted to look at them at the same time, and I think these were two of your favorites also. Cards are similar, and they're two of Roo's favorites. One of them is from a new deck that I've just added, which is the Wild Unknown Tarot, and then the other is the Tarot of the Magical Forest. And here we see
bats. That's what I like about him.
She likes bats and mummies.
Bats and mummies. That was good. What I noticed about one of the bats on this, this one.
Yeah.
I like it because his face doesn't really, yes, that one. His face doesn't really look like it's an owl face, kind of.
Oh, you're saying it looks like it's a bat, but it has kind of an owl look to it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. And then what do you think about this one?
That one totally looks like a bat. I like it how it has the...
Yeah, and that's what I like about this deck. All of the cards are basically black and white with just a touch of color. And I love just a touch of color. So I love those cards. The next ones, this is the straight leg group. And I'm going to go through these individually because there's several of them, but they're the straight leg guys. They've decided to dash away with the bent leg that's been around ever since 1450. And they have decided to go a different way, which is fine. Whatever. These are the hanged men with the straight legs. So here you go. Tarot of Vampires. And I know it's getting dark outside, so I'm losing my light. I'm not in my normal video spot tonight. So there we have the Tarot of Vampires Hangman. You know what? What do you see? What's in here that we were looking for in the Golden Dawn? Do you see a representation of water?
Blood.
The blood fountain. The blood fountain. It's like water. It's a vampire deck. So, you know, you don't really ever see water, actual water in this deck.
There's another one of my favorites.
And here's another one of her favorites, the Hanged Man from the Archeon Tarot.
It's
another mummy. This one's not wrapped, though. This guy's just drying out in the sun. I think he may have chillaxed a little too long.
Yeah. He's all going to...
He needs a glass of water. And we have the Hanging Man again. Or just Hanging Man now from the Tarot of Dreams. Last one by Ciro Marchetti. Told you, all three of them. Hanging Man. And it messes me up because now I keep saying it. Yeah. I like this Hanging Man.
Yeah, because it's weird how they just hang by both feet.
Yeah, he's just kind of suspended. If you look real closely, he's not actually being held by anything.
Yeah, that's another thing that I don't like about
Oh, you know what?
these cards.
No! He is hanging. He's holding on to those lasers.
Yeah.
See, if you can see in that, I don't know if you can tell. He's hanging on to the lasers. So it's like the acrobatic type kind of thing that we saw in the other Ciro deck, except this guy is hanging on to these laser poles, and he's holding up his body.
And
like that one.
This is another one.
This is another one of her favorites because it's another mummy, but it's a straight-legged mummy.
He's not even holding on to anything. He's just...
No, he's got his
relaxing.
No, he's not. He's holding his chest open, honey.
Yeah, but
he's got a amulet in there. You see the little beetle amulet?
Yeah, but he's floating.
Oh. Yeah, he's not. Yeah, he's just floating upside down. Or maybe he's laying down and we're looking at him from the ceiling.
Ceiling.
You know, like he's laying on a tablet.
Oh, I see.
And we're looking at him from down like this instead of straight up and down like this.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Just throwing stuff out there. Alchemy 1977. That's an awesome deck. Inner Realms Tarot did a good job. I like their hangman. It is hanging. It is a man. I can recognize this. This works for me. I love the fact that it's hanging from this hand. It's almost like it's the hand of God.
Yeah. It's like they're just holding their hand, and the man is coming up from his spirit. It's like it's his spirit, because it's all glowing.
Like no gravity, like you're in space. You're just floating in the cosmos. Very chillaxy card. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have the rogues, the renegades, the cards that are very, very different. Now, this one's not completely off. It is hanging, but it is the tarot of the Hidden Realm, and as I'm sure you've noticed by now, everything with that deck is close up. So we don't see the whole hanged man. We see just part of a young hanged man with his elvish long hair.
Yes,
and
that's another thing.
Yes, he does have long hair, and he has a very peaceful look on his face. You know, and again, it's like, is he hanging on the edge of a vine wall, or is he laying in the grass? Is he just laying in the grass chilling out?
It's like, to me, it kind of looks like there's vines wrapped around his waist, holding on.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's his pants.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
but that's a good idea. The artist could have done that. It would have worked. Had him just hanging in there.
It's a good idea.
It's a good idea. The last two we have are the Hobbit Tarot and the Wildwood Tarot. And the Wildwood Tarot, poor thing, got a score of 0 when it comes to its Arthur weightiness. But it is still a very appropriate card. The first thing that I notice about both of these cards that reminds me of the Golden Dawn is... Oh, I didn't know what time it was. Okay, so now it's dark, and what happened was we forgot that it was time for Roo to go to karate, and so I had to run her to karate really fast. She was a little bit late, but not too late. So anyway, I'm going to finish up the video by myself. As I was saying, the last two cards, they have water in them. Now, I know that it's going to be really hard for you to see them at this point. I did kind of show you a blip of them before, but here they are. The Hobbit Tarot and the Wildwood Tarot. And as I said, the Hobbit Tarot got credit for being called the Hanged Man. That's it. And then the Wildwood Tarot was called the Mirror, so it got no points because there is nothing going on there that matches the Hanged Man. However, I do think it's interesting that both of these have the water. So I was starting to say that before we got interrupted. They both have water, the water element. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, wrong card, the mirror, we see she's holding a mirror here, and she's also got this orb that she's holding above her head, which I take to represent kind of the same as, you can't even see me, to represent the same thing that the Crown of Light kind of represented in most of the hangmans that we saw. So that is my whole collection, including my 2 new decks. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I'm very sorry that it kind of bombed here at the end. But it got late. So this is what we're doing these days. This is why it's taking me so long to get these done. But anyway, we got through it, and I actually learned a lot about the Hanged Man card. So I had a blast going through the artwork, as usual. So until next time, whenever that is, blessed be. Right leg bent, left leg Blah.
Right leg not bent, left leg bent.
Now I forgot what I'm saying. So he's hanging here by a rope by his left leg, and he's got it crossed by his right. I said it wrong again. It's because I'm looking in the camera.